Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 30th of December 2024. It's Gary here again, and this is your last NARSA weekly update of 2024. And oh boy, I think in Rangers land we can agree that despite it being one of relative progress on and off the field, and I'll say that maybe with some inverted commas there, overall in terms of enjoyment, in terms of success, for sure, it was definitely a year to forget for me. It was anyway, and what a difference a week makes. Last week, I had hope and optimism that within a week or so that we might be actually genuinely in a title race, and then that got thrown right back in our faces, custard pie style, within 2 games. Now, not to give myself a wee bit of grace here, but I did caveat last week by saying if we were to get the maximum points against the two teams that we were playing before the Old Firm game, that we would be in a much better position. And the caution, unfortunately, was definitely justified after what we just witnessed in the last couple of games. And you know what, we're kind of back to what we were at the beginning of the season when we dropped a lot of the points that we are behind in the title race now, and it's just a mess. You just don't know who's going to show up. You don't know who of the folks that are actually in the team are going to show up. And the only bright spark for me over this last wee while is the fact that Aberdeen are completely tanking. So that gives us something, certainly in terms of materiality, for what the season 25-26 is going to look like for European qualification and such. But you know what, folks, it's just not fun being a Rangers fan right now, and I think it feels like it's going to get decidedly worse before it gets any better. The league has been done for a while, despite my optimism and what I said last week, and we're not even halfway through the season. It's just absolutely grim, and despite it not being fun, we're still going to show up. We don't do walking away, as Super Ali famously said. But man, oh man, you go from 20 people at Pin Bar at the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary for the St Mirren game to 10 for the Motherwell game, and with it being a return to work day here in Canada, Thursday's game at 8 o'clock is going to be super inconvenient for most people, so I have no idea what it's going to look like in terms of people showing up or not. But we are going to have a barren year in terms of the club, and I'm sure that many other clubs across the world are going to be in the exact same position. Sorry to start off with a downer, kinda blaming it on Rangers for this week for the obvious reasons, which I'll get to right now. So the game segment, the first game was Boxing Day's disaster in the most beautiful town in Europe with that 2-1 defeat, featuring, what would you say, comedy gold defending, and just the sort of display that we know is just below the surface with this current squad, maybe this current management team as well, and this just feels like it's life at Rangers these days. A couple of months, maybe not even 6 weeks or so of improvement, and then we claw back some much needed points atop the table, and then we give them right away. That's twice, only twice in 18 games that mob have dropped points, and twice that we've been beaten in our very next game. That just kind of says it all. And while Philippe Clement says, regularly in the press conferences, we don't look at or concentrate any efforts on anyone else. Of course we do. We're in competition. We're competing against other teams. So of course we're going to be looking at what other people do. And that's the motivating factors. When you see other teams that are around you losing points, you're like, right, we're already going to be competing at 110% today. Let's make it 150 to make sure that we don't have any banana skins that are going to slip us up. But no, we just don't seem to do that. So for me, that if he's saying that and he genuinely means that, which I can't believe he does, that's a loser's mentality to me, and we just can't have that at Rangers. And after the League Cup final, where we were cheated out of a trophy there, I was in a less than stellar mood, let's just say. And I'd been saying in the car, I had a couple of beers as well, by the way, okay? But I'd been saying in the car on the way home, we're just a bunch of losers, and that's what we've been known for over the last, what would that be now, coming up for 13 years or so, 14 years. And I'd been saying to Leo, like, I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. I try and win in every single thing that I do. I try to compete in every single thing that I do. I'm not going to win everything, but I'm going to make sure I'm competing at my absolute optimum and best. So I kind of went on about the fact that I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. So why am I supporting this bunch of losers? Like, we need winners at the very top. He's since reminded me in one of those "do you remember what you said last night" type things that he's wont to do as a 15-year-old pain in the bum sometimes. But it's true. And what we haven't enjoyed is genuine winners at the leadership of our club as much as we needed to over the last 12 to 14 years or so. We had Dave King and team in there that delivered us 55, and then that subsequently spilled over into Seville in 2022. But other than that, it's been an absolute nightmare of a time. And I just hope, I mean, we haven't heard a thing from the new chairman, and we've had one TV interview from the new CEO. Now I know it's only a couple of weeks, I appreciate that, but with the appointment of a new communications person, which I'll talk about in a wee while here, we have to try and get back to genuinely reflecting on the park what our leadership team in the boardroom are all about, which is winning. And we don't have that. We haven't had that for, as I say, the majority of the time. Anyway, back to the game. The first half was just an absolute shocker, wasn't it? Just shockingly bad. And yeah, did we kind of expect anything different, from that team? I kind of did, of course, because I'm glass half full as much as I possibly can be. But when the players go out there and they seem to be somewhat surprised by the physicality, by the speed and tempo and energy of the other team, by how up there their fans are and stuff, and they kind of look like they're spooked. I just don't understand that. Like, we can't prepare for that. We don't have enough evidence and history of that over the hundreds of games that we've played against these teams over the years. It's just absolutely madness. And while we rallied, up until we equalised in the second half, the first, what was that, 15, 20 minutes or so of the second half, you knew the goal was coming. Then after that, we just kind of stopped doing what was working. We stopped working harder than them. We stopped creating chaos in the box. We stopped mixing up the crosses. And we just kind of reverted back to type, as if, right, we've done our job, we're now going to get back, we'll go on to score 2 or 3 or 4. You need to earn the right to do that, and we haven't been. And for some reason, this team seems to think that they are better than they are, or whatever it is. I'm not sure. Super Jack Butland, I love the guy, but he must still have baby brain for the absolute stupidity challenge that he put in. And then Dujon Sterling had a shocker for their winner at the end. It's just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake with a squad. It was a drab and abject performance, wasn't it? And it just put us in an even worse position for the season. Not until the Motherwell game, of course. Positives, the first 15-20 minutes of the second half were okay. Just okay. Lots of box action, and you just felt like the goal was coming, as I said. Other than that, I don't think anyone got pass marks, and everyone was just off it. Do you want to be playing a game on Boxing Day? Probably not. But that's life at Rangers. That's what you get paid the big bucks for, and that's what you should be getting yourself up for. One team was, one team wasn't, and that was it. The negatives, almost everything, really. The performance, especially the first half performance, our defending was terrible, our shooting was woeful, our lack of fight was embarrassing, and again, why do we regularly look surprised when teams play like that against us? Leon Balogun's injury certainly didn't help, but here's the thing with Leon Balogun. You seen that he had whatever happened to his ankle or his leg or his calf, whatever it was, and any other player in that Rangers squad would have stopped right there and just went straight down, and then it would have been up to the referee as to whether they were going to let that be a stoppage of play or not. They're kind of inconsistent with that these days. But he didn't give up until he defended it, and he did defend it to get the ball out. Then he went down, then he had to go off. And that's the sign of someone who knows what it's like, what it's all about to play for Rangers. And as I say, I don't think the other 11 players on the field at that particular time would have done anything like that. And for me right now, certainly this is on the evidence that we've got, it would appear that the team peaked, and then the drive, the motivation, the gumption has just been kind of sapped right out of them after the League Cup final there, and we just don't seem to have that other level in us anymore, which is which makes for a long 5 months coming up here, folks. I don't mind telling you that. The stats, the stats are okay when you look at the game. Same with the Dundee game, same, of course, with this game, Motherwell. This game, St Mirren, and then the next game with Motherwell. The stats are okay, but it's not converting to performance at all like it was previous to the League Cup final. 75% possession, 14 shots on goal with 5 on target, versus 5 shots on goal for them with 3 on target. And yeah, almost identical stats to the previous game against Dundee, but vastly less quality, vastly less fight, vastly less application, or vastly less clue, quite honestly. The referee watch, David Dickinson, did okay. He called their penalty absolutely correctly, and I don't remember being too annoyed with him. So he'll get, I'm going to give him individually a 7 out of 10, but the VAR for our goal, which comes on the back of a statement, which we'll talk about a wee bit later on, took about 4 or 5 minutes, and they said they were looking at something like 7 different areas of maybe what they could try and find to chalk the goal off. It's obviously some sort of reaction to our statement, and so they're overall collectively they're going to get a 5 out of 10 for that, because that's just petulant. We come out and talk about factual things that have happened, and decisions that have been made, and decisions we don't agree with, and an exposure to clarity of exactly what we're looking for, and then all of a sudden they're terrified to give us anything just in the off chance. I'll probably get to that in a wee bit here as well. Second game, marginally better, was yesterday's 2-2 draw at Motherwell, which it wasn't much better really, was it? Actually, their first goal had a hint of handball, and then a proper puts his hand up, and then by that time you're claiming for it during the actual passage of play. We just switch off. Butland comes out, stops, is in no man's land, and we end up 1-0 down. Just an abomination of a goal. Play to the whistle. How many times do you see that? I know it's a natural, instinctual reaction to call for the handball. It wasn't in an unnatural position, but it came off his hand and gave them a goal-scoring opportunity. So I'd love to know actually what the rules are with that, because I don't know. I thought it was just a handball was a handball, but I guess it's not. Their second goal, this is deja vu. Sterling makes an absolute abomination for it again, and the ball comes over and he heads it in to the literal one area on the whole flipping pitch that he shouldn't, and their boy controls it, turns Tav inside out, and then Cooley slots home. Really good finish actually, I thought, on that. Fair enough. But there was just no fight or desire, just literally a terrible first half. And we did have chances in the first half as well. Ridvan was putting in cross after cross after cross. Some of them even actually were on target in terms of crosses. And we had the chances. Dessers had a chance, missed it. Danilo had a chance, completely fluffed his header. And then as the second half starts, we get a goal. We make a couple of substitutions, of course, and then we get a goal back from Egaman at the very start actually, and then that was checked, and then finally given again. See this pattern forming here, folks? And then Liam Miller, the lauded future of Scottish football, should have been sent off, plain and simple, for a red card over the ball, caught the ankle. Very reckless. It wasn't in control at all. That was looked at very quickly and nothing happened. And then the audacity of their manager to complain about the fact that he got a yellow card for it and not a red, and then he eventually gets sent off because he can't keep his mouth shut, but then he gets to communicate from the stands. What's that? See, when you're a player and you get sent off, you're not allowed to stand at the side and coach and give people some guidance and advice, but you're allowed to just go up and go on the walkie-talkie or the phone or whatever it is. I don't know if that's the rules. It shouldn't be the rules. If you're getting sent off, then you need to disappear. You need to go away, and you have no further influence at all on the game. So I don't know if that's allowed or not. I'd love to hear from anybody that would know the rule around that. And then they scored, another goal, which thankfully actually was offside anyway. But Butland, Super Jack Butland, I think I'm going to have to just start calling him Jack Butland, because he's got the opportunity just to flip the ball over the top of the bar, but he gets completely disoriented, doesn't know where it is, ball comes down, he makes a great save at that point, the defence are just standing going, oh, look at this is kind of fun, isn't it? And their boy puts it in, but it was offside, so that's fair enough. And then you've got Egaman's brilliant equaliser, absolutely brilliant finish. Then you've got Cherny cleared off the line, so you're thinking, right, this is better. Just get the win by hook or by crook, and we'll go forward. But we never really threatened after that, did we? And it kind of petered out to being a 2-2 draw. And by the way, at the end of that game, I had one of those feelings that I haven't had for quite some time, where I thought we're going to lose a goal at the end here. We've got that in us. We've got that lack of mentality to be able to see the game out for whatever the result is at that particular point in time. Positives, a point. We got a point, I guess. Is that a positive? Egerman's goals, obviously making a big difference on it. A more productive second half in comparison to the first half, and kind of, well, not kind of, returns for Cortez and Matondo back into the team. It'll take them a bit of time to get up to speed. I was expecting Matondo just to get injured after 10 minutes of being on, and I'm sure that'll come in the next game or so. But I thought it was actually a weird game to bring Cortez back into. I thought, maybe at Ibrox would have been a time. Maybe he was desperate to get him some game time before the Old Firm game or something like that. The Old Firm game's meaningless now. It doesn't matter, other than, Clermont needs to have a victory against them at some point to in some way give us any hope that he's the guy that's going to take us forward. Negatives, the first half performance again. You know what, it's actually even before that. It's one of these ones, and I've talked about this numerous times this season, where the manager has the opportunity to either lift or deflate the support prior to the game, and he decided to deflate by his starting lineup when you've got Cyril Dessers in there, who's just completely fallen off a cliff. Not the only one, by the way. You've got Kieran Dowell in there as well, and it looks like he's listening to the sports scientists. It looks like he's trying to save some players and do a bit of rotation and things like that. We don't have any faith in Kieran Dowell, unfortunately. I mean, I would never boo a Rangers player or anything like that. He just doesn't look like he's Rangers class at all. So, and then Dessers, of course, he's just stopped scoring, so it's just not working for him anymore. So, and while I said a positive was getting a point, a negative was also the fact that we only got a point as well. Jack Butland has fallen off a cliff. Dessers has as well. Danilo's misses. Our defence in general now that Balogun's gone and we've got Proper and Sterling in the middle, we're obviously ravaged with injuries at the back. It's one of these things where teams know how to play against us now. It's very, very easy just to turn our defence, put the ball right down the middle, create some chaos and get opportunities to score, and they seem to be scoring and making that particular tactic work. We're just there for the taking again, unfortunately. In terms of stats, 70% possession, 20 shots on goal with 9 on target. We scored 2 of them. What's that, almost a quarter, something like that? That's not good enough. Has to be about half, I would imagine. Versus there, 6 shots on goal with 4 on target. On the referee watch, Kevin Clancy, as I said earlier, should have sent off Liam Miller for an overball challenge. It goes to VAR. He doesn't even get told to go and look at the TV. He's just confirmed he's okay. But the way that he was running, he did it twice actually in the game. It looks like he's going to the TV, and you're like, right, okay, let's see what's happening. But then he just went over and booked Kettlewell at that particular point, and that was a miss, a complete miss. That's I don't care who the boy ends up playing for, even if he ends up being at Rangers. That was a red card challenge, and he should have been off. I thought VAR was completely all over the place yesterday, and taking more and more time to check to make sure we don't get anything at all that we don't deserve, and they take almost little to no time when it's against us, and that's becoming blatant. That's when we know that we've struck a chord or we've struck a nerve, and we need to then continue with this campaign of asking for clarification and checking things and being consistent with that sort of mode. So I think overall I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10 overall on that as well. So here's a damning statistic. Static, oh my word. We've played 18 games, I think I mentioned that earlier. We've played 9 at home and 9 away. Our home record is we've won 8, we've lost 0, and we've drawn 1. That's exactly the same as the Mob from the East End's record. They've got a better goal difference than us, but not by a tremendous amount. Our goal difference is 19 at home. Away, we've played 9 games, we've won 3, we've lost 4, and we've drawn 2. And we've got a goal difference of -1 away from home. So just looking at that, we don't need sports scientists, we don't need any other experts. Look at that, you can see where the problem lies. The problem lies away from home. We have no idea how to win games and see games out away from home. That's an incredible amount. We've lost 2 points at home, and the remainder that we've lost, which is, I don't know, about 18 or so in total for the season, has been away from home. That needs to get fixed, and it needs to get fixed quickly. So, in terms of games, that's a wrap for 2024, and we move on to 2 league games to start 2025, and amongst a very, very busy January, actually. We don't have the winter break, of course, this year, because the Euros kind of pushed that out a wee bit for us. We've got 6 league games, 2 Europa League games, and a Scottish Cup game in January. So, a busy period there overall. Starting off with the Old Firm game this Thursday, the 2nd of January, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. UK. This one's meaningless, but it's for bragging rights only. Just don't go any further behind. Don't give them an opportunity to rub it right in our faces, is what I would say. But in terms of league, obviously we want to stay ahead of Aberdeen, so it's not a pointless game. There's no such thing as a pointless Old Firm game, but it doesn't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And then we're away to an in-form Hibs team on Sunday, the 5th of January, and that's a 7 a.m, an early one, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon UK. And they are, I mean, apart from the mob from the East End, they are the resurgent team, the form team in the league right now, and are definitely on a bit of a roll. It looked like they were going to sack their manager there earlier in the season when they were rooted at the bottom of the table, but now I think they're actually up to like 7th, or maybe like they're pushing for the top 6 now after a run of victories there. And of course, like, even if they were in the toilet, we never really get an easy game at Easter Road, so who knows what happens with this Jekyll and Hyde Rangers team that we've got right now, and we'll see what that brings. In terms of shout-outs for this week, I need to start with some very, very sad news from Toronto number 1 Rangers Supporters Club, with the passing on Christmas Eve of their beloved member Annie Kennedy. And Annie was another mainstay of conventions that has left us in 2024, and she was just, for anyone who had the pleasure to meet her, she was just such a kind, sweet, fun and genuine lady who was always upbeat and just a joy to be around. She absolutely loved Rangers, and as I say, she was just, I don't recall a convention that she wasn't at. There might be the ones that I've been at that she wasn't at, but every time I remember a convention, I remember Annie and her friends being there, and I'm sure everyone at the conventions is going to miss her. Same with Nicky Lyle from the London Rangers Supporters Club, and at Toronto number 1 they're going to miss her, and it's going to leave a huge hole for anyone attending either the conventions or the club celebrations and such going forward. I'm going to put a link into the funeral website, and her funeral is this Friday, I believe, and you can actually follow on with online with that if you want to follow on and pay your respects in absentia there if you can't make it over. And I'm just going to read out her obituary here, if you don't mind. Born in Glasgow, Scotland on the 2nd of June 1937, Anne passed away peacefully at Scarborough General Hospital surrounded by her family on December 24th, 2024. Annie was predeceased by her loving husband Ian Neddy Kennedy in 1996. Beloved mother of Ian, John and Alan Kennedy, granny and great-granny to her 10 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren, loving sister of John, Tommy and Isa, all predeceased, loving aunt to all of her nieces and nephews in Scotland. Annie was a proud member of the Eastern Star and a long-time member of the Toronto number 1 Glasgow Rangers Supporters Club. The family would like to sincerely thank the staff at Scarborough General Hospital emergency and ICU departments. Your support was so meaningful to all of us during this difficult time. She will be dearly missed by all of us. You left us beautiful memories. Your love is still our guide. Although we cannot see you, you are always by our side. Friends will be received by the family on Friday, January 3rd at the Ogden Funeral Home. That's 4164 Shepherd Avenue East, Agan Court, east of Kennedy Road. Visitation at 2 p.m, followed by a memorial service at 3 p.m. That's going to be 3 p.m. Eastern Time, folks. And donations in Annie's memories to Scarborough General Hospital ICU would be greatly appreciated. That's just terrible news. Terrible news at any point of the year, all the more poignant when it comes on Christmas Eve and the family have to deal with this during the festive period. So I can only just offer myself and NARSA's sincere condolences to Ian, John, Alan, all the grandkids and great grandkids, her friends, everyone at Eastern Star and everyone at Toronto #1. Just awful, awful news. You know what? Annie reminded me of my Auntie May. And I absolutely loved my Auntie May. She was just a nice person to her core, her absolute core. And when I heard the news of that, that was distressing. That was really sad to hear. So condolences again to everyone from that. Moving on, Orange County Soccer Club are doing their fan ownership, and I think I did check out their website, and I think that there's just over a week left on that one, I believe. So if you're interested in getting a wee bit of stateside ownership going there, you have just over a week left. I'll leave the link in the show notes for this week. And a reminder for the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club Culture Weekend that's going to feature Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe, a boat cruise with songs being sung by a guest from Scotland, and then a gala dinner on the Saturday. Again, I'll leave the link there for that. Nothing on the women's team. They're back. They're on a winter break right now, and I'm sure they're kind of delighted by that because the results for them were just almost as bad as the guys' team over the last couple of games prior to the break. They're back in action on January the 12th. And just another reminder for the Narco Curry Weekend in London, Ontario. You can email narco2025@outlook.com on that. It's from Thursday the 13th of February to Sunday the 16th. We're not 100% sure just yet when the Hearts game is going to be that weekend. We typically find out in terms of TV roughly about 4 to 6 weeks in advance, so another couple of weeks and we'll probably know exactly when that is, and then you can shape up your entire weekend on that. In terms of the convention update, 163 days and 23 weeks until we go to Kissimmee and do what we're going to do in Kissimmee, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. Of course, we have Bomber Brown, Mark Haitley, we do have entertainment guests confirmed and such. We're going to do a big push here in terms of advertising and marketing over the next month or so, to make sure that we can do what we want to do, what we need to do in terms of entertainment and such for our convention. If you're holding off, if you're looking for something to look forward to as part of Rangers season, I would kind of encourage you to forget about any sort of success from the team this season and concentrate all your efforts on NARSA 2025 in Kissimmee in Florida from the 12th to the 15th of June. If you have any convention stories from the past, I would love to hear them. And of course, we have the tickets out for sale, we have the rooms, the hotel rooms out for sale and such as well. In terms of other business, we do have a spring meeting to organise. We're still in a wee bit of debate at the NARSA exec here in terms of the best date to do it, but I think we're going to do it probably around about mid-January. Get it out of the way, actually use that as a vehicle to do continued marketing and advertising about the convention as well. So we might bend the constitution a wee bit because I think we have to give a wee bit more notice on that. But historically, what we call the spring meeting, which is essentially in winter, is so poorly attended by our membership, which it's something has to change on that. Something will change. I'm going to put a motion together at the AGM about that, but we'll get the notifications out to our membership and we'll see what that looks like as we go forward. At the time of recording, I'm now onto the communications section. At the time of recording, it's 4 minutes past 10 on Monday morning. There's no Gers guide. Everyone's obviously on kind of holiday a wee bit. The Gers guide's a wee bit all over the place these days, or this last few weeks anyway. On today's... Actually, I'm just going to make it up here based on what I think the pattern typically is. Today, you're probably going to get something on RTV about the away days, which would chronicle both St Mirren and Motherwell. Tomorrow, I imagine, would be the press conference for the Old Firm game on Thursday. That might be on Wednesday, I'm not sure. And there's typically a loan review on the Tuesdays as well. Wednesday's New Year's Day. I don't expect there to be too much going on there. Thursday is the 2nd, of course, and that's the Old Firm game, and it's also I wonder what's going to happen here. I've got a rough idea what's going to happen. Rangers are going to try and pay respects to the Ibrox disaster, and there will be some way that mob, despite there being no fans there, will have some way or fashion of disrespecting it, I'm sure, whether it be the folks in the dugout or something. I don't know, and I don't mean to be negative in advance, but they're just disgusting. They're fans and they just don't know how to behave, and they've just completely lost themselves in whatever caricatures of themselves that they think they are. But anyway, that we'll hopefully see something very, very poignant from Rangers on that. On Friday, I imagine it would be the press conference for the Hibs game. Not a lot going on Saturday, Sunday would be the Hibs game. In terms of communication, I did mention this briefly earlier. Rangers made a statement when it became clear that it was announced actually that the offending VAR officials from the League Cup final who cheated us out of the final, and I want to be very clear about how I feel about that, they cheated us out of the League Cup. They were back in action on the weekend. So Rangers said the following statement. I'm going to read this one out too. Rangers FC has contacted the Scottish FA to express serious concerns and ask several questions regarding the swift reinstatement of the 2 VAR officials involved in the officiating failure during the recent Premier Sports Cup final. We also note one of the officials has been appointed to an SPFL Premiership match involving the club that benefited from the error. The Scottish FA's actions raise questions about their commitment to improving officiating standards and fostering accountability. While Rangers FC fully respects the independence of officiating appointments and the need for the referees to operate without interference, how the Scottish FA handles such high-profile failures directly affects its credibility and public confidence. The decision to reinstate the officials so quickly, and in particular for a fixture involving the club which benefited from the mistake in question, notice they've done that twice, has drawn widespread media scrutiny on the officiating failure and officials concerned. This was both predictable and avoidable and contradicts any stated duty of care from the Scottish FA towards their match officials. I think that's more like it, isn't it? And we just need to keep it up, as I mentioned earlier. And if you need any evidence of anything, and I'm not saying it's actually related to these 2 guys that cheated us, but if you haven't seen it already, go and take a look on YouTube at the penalty that mob from the East End got on Boxing Day and see whether we are being officiated to different standards, to see whether our complaints have either helped or hindered the standards. Now, we can't give up on this because this is the initial part. This is part of the process. You get an initial backlash, and then eventually there'll be some sort of normalisation. We need to keep this up. This needs to be part of someone at the club's job every single week. I was saying this at the club on the weekend. Every single week on a Monday, they have to phone up and say, I want to speak to the head of referees, I want to speak to Willie Collum. And even if it's just to compliment the referees from that day, you get your presence felt. You get your opinions over, and then eventually that becomes influential. Look at how we are officiated differently to that mob from the East End. We know it works. They've been doing it for decades and decades and decades, and now it's just ingrained in the story of how we get refereed, or how refereeing happens in Scotland in general. I did hear this morning on Heart and Hand Daily Update that we've appointed Greg Naylor as Chief Communications Director, and I believe he starts in April. That's quite a long notice period from where he is. He's had a lot of communications experience, worked with the Scottish FA, I believe he worked at Hibs, worked at Brentford, and did some work with Patrick Stewart at Manchester United as well. So he's going to come in and be our Chief Communications Director. Again, he'll be working with Nick Thompson and the existing team and doing all kind of public-facing communication and such. So I'm not sure what that means in terms of reshuffling or the structure of the communications team. Nick has done a great job since he has been in there, but obviously Patrick Stewart has seen a need for there to be a bit more structure or robustness or hierarchy or whatever it is. I'm not 100% sure, but welcome aboard. I couldn't actually see anything online about that announcement being made, so I'll just take David's word for it that what he's saying is true. He is a Scotsman, and not David, Greg Naylor, and he is a Rangers fan as well, so that's good to know. And that comes on the back of a temporary appointment of a chief commercial officer until the end of the season to replace the outgoing Karim Varane. So you can see some of the stuff working behind the scenes. It just takes time, unfortunately, and it takes time for all that stuff to bed in. It takes time for all that stuff to come to fruition and give us the opportunity to see if they're actually going to be worthwhile appointments that are going to move us forward as a club. Quick reminder about the Burn Supper, the annual Rangers Burn Supper presented by Douglas Lang & Co. That's on Friday the 24th of January, and the Rangers International Coaching Convention the 3rd to the 6th of April 2025. A wee bit longer today and not quite as upbeat as I was hoping to be and excited as I was anticipating to be leading into this weekend, this month, but that's just life as a Rangers fan for right now, and I'm kind of getting fed up with it, I don't mind telling you. But anyway, that will do it for this week, my friends. As always, thanks very much for taking the time to listen. Please do share it with anyone you think might enjoy it. Happy New Year when it comes, and that's going to be tomorrow, of course, 5 p.m. Calgary time is when we celebrate it down in Pinbar. If you're in the Calgary area, you're more than welcome to come along. I will keep my speech short. We'll have some beers, we'll have some food, and we'll ring in the new year, and hopefully there are better things to come in 2025. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you very, very much on behalf of NARSA and the NARSA Weekly Update podcast for all of your support, all of your engagement this year, all of the times that you told me that what Gaz got wrong last week, all of the times that you laughed at my errors and my mistakes and my faux pas and such. It's been a great time. I've been thrilled and honoured to provide these weekly updates to you every single week. 52 episodes this year. In terms of Rangers, we just can't have a 2025 like we did a 2024. It's as simple as that. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself on that, but I think that's quite obvious in there for everyone to see that we need better times to fall on our club here, because it's getting worrisome. Anyway, take care. Happy New Year when it comes. All the very best, and I'll chat to you again next week. Follow.